Speaking of aging superstars, a couple who are still performing at a very high level on the Pittsburgh Penguins in Sidney Crosby and Geno Malkin. Even Chris Letang on the back end, maybe not, maybe a little past his prime more than the other two, but a lot of quality players on the Penguins. They're going to be the 5 seed out east. What are your initial impressions of the Penguins? Let's start with Marshall.
Really quick, I'd just like to say I'm never going to count out Sidney Crosby.
Yeah,
I'm not
one of the
even
best
like
players
pulling
to
a
do
Ron
it.
Rivera here and saying like, "Hey, cannot count out Cam Newton." Sidney Crosby has been the best player of our generation. Connor McDavid is, breathing down his neck right now, but Sidney Crosby is the consensus best player over the last 20 years. And he has had the sidekick, in which if Sidney Crosby was not in the league, a lot of people think that Malkin would have been, the Sidney Crosby of this generation.
Yeah, he's
It,
two elite
no
players.
matter how old they are, you just cannot count out the Penguins.
Yeah.
And they still have a very solid supporting cast. With the emergence of Jake Gensel and Brian Rust and just some, Cahoon. And then their goalies just always seem to like they can just cycle goalies all over the place and just figure it out from there. So, you know, although they're not one of my like huge favorites coming out of the East, just because the East is so stacked, um, I still see them, you know, being able to pull something out of their bag of tricks again.
Yeah, to
Yeah,
me, oh,
definitely. Oh, go ahead, Zach.
okay. So to me, the Penguins are a sleeper team to me in the East. Not even just to win a cup, they're a sleeper team. They still have all the talent from their previous runs. They still got the depth on the in center, especially. Oh my gosh, they got Bukestad, Crosby, Gensel. Old players
Yeah.
like Marlowe can come in and add some experience to the roster. Not that they need it because they've won back to back. You could just go on and on with these guys. They are so stacked. This is a team that could definitely make a push to win a Stanley Cup this year again. I wouldn't count them out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Karim?
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't feel like there's much to say.
Yeah.
You can't discount Crosby. You can't discount Malkin. After Kessel leaving, I mean, I feel like Malkin's got a fire under his butt. I think he's ready to just play again. I don't know what was going on back then. If there was just all this drama, I don't want
I
to
feel
make
like
speculations.
I feel like Malkin's having one of the best seasons of his career this season.
Exactly. I feel like
He's been
Kessel
solid,
leaving
definitely.
has changed it, man.
A couple of players that I'd like to hit on right here. A really big acquisition, a trade deadline acquisition that I'd like to touch on. Billy might have more to add. Is Jason Zucker though, former DU
DU
boy.
kid.
Yep, absolutely, former DU boy, has played really well with the team so far. 12 points, 15 games, and is playing that two-way game that they brought him into play. Billy, you can touch on it more here in a second because I know you will probably want to. Another guy though is Zach Aston-Reese. I feel like this guy is a Selke contender. He is one of the best defensive forwards in the entire league. And if you have that type of player that can just go against other teams' top lines and, like play that defensive shutdown type role, that's something that you especially need in the playoffs with increased minutes from, the other team's top guns and all that. So,
Yeah. I don't know that I'd go so far as to call Aston Reese a Selke contender, but definitely a very solid defensive forward. They'll probably, for the playoffs, pop him on that third line, let him do his thing, kind of shut down some other high-end forwards that they'll be going up against out in the East. But you touched on Zucker on that first line. I imagine that first line will be Zucker, Crosby, and Gensel. We haven't actually talked much about Gensel, but a very good high-end wing. Another one of those, you get him every few years and they're like, all right, is this guy an elite wing or is he a good wing that plays next to Crosby? I don't know, but regardless, he's going to put up numbers for him. But Zucker, a big trade deadline acquisition, and we talked about it a lot when we did our video on the Hurricanes. these deadline acquisitions change the layout of a team. This is a better team today than they were before the trade deadline. So I think Zucker is definitely a big move for them. Had the season played out, they might have even caught the Flyers to get into that 4th seed spot. So it'll be interesting to see if they can make some noise in the playoffs, and I definitely believe that they can. Let's get some verdicts here. Does anyone else have any last things to say before we get into these verdicts?
Another thing really quick that I have, talked about on other podcasts is this break is going to, help with injuries wise, get some players healthy.
Yeah.
Crosby has dealt with a bunch of injuries this season. So that's good. Like Crosby, in terms of his career, this has been a very down year for him, even though he has 47 points, 41 games played. This is kind of like an offseason for Crosby. Not only that, but Jake Gensel and Connor Sheary have been dealing with season-long injuries. And whether or not that they're going to be coming back for these play-in games in the playoffs, this is another team that can end up benefiting from this little 3-month layoff. So that's all I have to add. But yeah, so.
Yeah, and they've also got veterans who know how to handle an offseason.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
I'll give you my verdict here first. I think the Penguins are a contender. I don't think they're one of the best contenders, but this is the NHL. Anything can happen, and the Penguins are a very solid team that have been there before. They know how to win a cup, and maybe they do it again this year.
Yeah.
Zach, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to go. They're definitely a contender. Like I said earlier, they're my sleeper team to win the Stanley Cup. Yeah, contender.
Yeah. Karim, you want to give your analysis here?
Yeah, man. I think they're contending. They're definitely gonna. They're gonna put up a fight. I mean, like everyone's been saying, Crosby's just next level. Malkin's next level.
Yeah.
Don't count them out until they're out.
Yep. So yeah, they're also a contender for me. And like I've said on previous pods, and I'll probably say this every week if we're going over NHL teams, there are a lot of NHL teams that can contend every single year. But this specifically, like Billy had said, they're not one of my top contenders this year. But I'm not going to ever discount Crosby and Malkin, even if they're like 45 years old. So, yeah, they're a contender for me.